To speak about some really interesting issues. We have Caroline, who is an incredible feminist lawyer in Goa, doing outstanding work, and in the news a lot, fighting an administration that completely denies the presence of domestic violence or gender-based violence. Very tough job. And I'm very glad Caroline is with us. And human rights is very integral to the agenda we want to set for the next elections. And we have Antonio Claus Costa from the youngest head of the South Goa Lawyers Association, who's filed some very important PILs. A lot of us know Antonio from the PIL he filed recently for COVID mismanagement, which all of us lived through in Goa. But actually, Antonio's been filing a lot of really important PILs, some really important PILs on corruption in the revenue offices and really getting them to modernize and expose some really serious issues and charges of corruption, which sort of tie up with stuff you're hearing from the ex-governor of Goa in the charge sheet he just put out. But while Goa has been under BJP rule since 2012, despite a widely acknowledged anti-incumbency sentiment, you can ask any taxi driver in Goa, they'll tell you, whether a non-BJP-led opposition comes to power in 2022 remains a tough question, largely because Goa in 2017 set an unwieldy precedent for a new kind of BJP-led mass defections of elected MLAs across party lines. And so I think you all start with you. I want to ask you, how do you now, as you canvass, how do you win the trust of the voter right now? How do we connect these issues with the voters? Because the voter on the ground is if I vote for you, will you stay loyal to my vote? I mean, that is the biggest sort of on-the-ground sentiment for voters right now. There's a real sort of sense of betrayal. Thanks.
Yes, good evening everyone. Basically, now whatever the question you put for me, I think Goa, the Goan, Goikar, that Goikarpan is little bit in a, like a shaky, like they don't know whom to choose. Tanjamukar ek idol, the politicians die, who will resolve the Goan issue which Goa is facing. Also, कोणूच एक leadership as गोयच्या लोकांक दोळ्यांमुखार लोकांकडे ना. So basically, what I think is Goa is looking for a strong leadership who can fight with the issues we have seen every time. Like there are issues from SEZ which we fought. Now the recent issues which are core issue is there. Then all the linear issues, whatever the issues, environmental destructions, whatever going on, and all the Goans are all the time on street. They want to save the Goan. It is not so easy. Goinkar amka kasha asa. We are so much connected to our land. It is like our motherland, and we can't see the whatever the destruction is going on. So basically, Goa is looking for that personality, like a savior. You can say, who can save the Goan and take away all the troubles. Whatever this party which I have seen, and within this BJP rule, I can say like 10 years, it is almost the life of Goan is ruined. Like,
what is the one issue in the last 10 years that you think is a really sort of urgent issue in Goa right now?
Oh, there are all the issues are urgent.
Sure.
Means it is like we want to save our identity. That is Goan. That is very important. Our land, with our land, we are. That's what I said. We are connected with the land, and that is the only thing. The environmental destruction which is going on, and that we can't bear. Not a single Goikar who are really. They are so much this thing with pain with this whatever is going on. So I think there are many issues. Mining is stopped, unemployment is there, You can see like nowadays the means all rapes and all murders, what is happening every day we see, and all farmers, fishermen, all are without jobs, and you can see many issues like I can say like I travel all over the Goa, like for any issue happen like I run there. Like if you go every village of Goa, they are having their own problem. Every Goan village is having their own problem. That's the reason during the regional plan and all the SEZ matters, like we used to travel all the Goan villages and we used to tell the people, please unite, unite for your village. Goa is such a small state, but
Smallest Indian state, yeah.
small beautiful state, but the it is I don't know, it is how I can say it, like small state, but this 40 MLAs, panchayat, municipality, they cannot manage it. I think only panchayat can also manage Goa very well if they have given the full right. That's the thing, and that's why we used to travel and we used to tell the people, you be alert, be vigilant what is going on in your village and protect your, come together and protect if every village is protected, I think गोंयांत आनी कोणाक व्हडलें हें करपाची गरज ना आंदोलनां. I think so.
So I mean, I want to come to Dean a little bit on this. There's a sort of predominant sentiment of misgovernance. We're living in this idea of misgovernance, and I want to sort of, our hallowed Prime Minister right now has just flown to Glasgow after meeting the Pope. A very sort of, and he's now obviously, and he's making all these statements about against fossil fuels, and completely in contradiction to everything we're doing in the country. And Nand Kumar Kamath has written this fantastic piece in the Navhin Times just 2 days ago, saying that, or 3 days ago, that we might actually, as Goans, we have to get used to, or people living in Goa, we have to get used to a monsoon cycle that will start in May and continue till end of December. I mean, we will have, we'll have 5 months without monsoon and 7 months of a monsoon season with repeated cyclonic storms. We have to reimagine our lives completely. Climate change is going to be the single most important issue. How do we connect that to the governance issues with this sort of election agenda now?
Yeah, I think it's extremely important that we understand the seriousness of climate change that's going to affect us. I mean, they say by 2050 we would lose a great deal of our Kazan land, which is 15-20% of land. And that's productive landscape, which basically gives us our food. So we have to look at what are our economic drivers. We were an agricultural society before, and now we've shifted away from it with tourism, with mining. Mining, as we've seen, has failed. Tourism has reached well beyond its carrying capacity, and it's turning into a direction which is quite horrible if you're looking at the social structure of things. And so we need to look at, so what is going to drive us in the future? From this pandemic, we realized that it's really resilience and bringing community together that really address the problem. It's not governance. We've seen governance fail in this pandemic. So how do we actually put in support systems to address climate change that's taking place? The thing of monsoons increasing actually was 10 years ago there was a report that Goa is going to receive heavier monsoons because there is a change in the patterns of the oceans and the current flow. So we are going to see this happening, but can this resource of the monsoons actually be tapped in some way? So can we actually use it, as they say in the Chinese act, Tai Chi, which basically is you're using the opponent's force for your own benefit. So how can we actually, what you think is a negative actually use positively? In my experience as part of one of the committee members in preparing the regional plan, I think we looked at resources a lot. So what are the natural resources that we can tap in Goa? I mean, the fact that we've got a great amount of agricultural land here, we've got water, we've got an agricultural, backbone in terms of people are still involved in agriculture. So how can we value add agriculture in some way? Because right now just selling paddy is not the way to go. All our vegetables are brought from Belgaum. So can we actually look at industries which support agriculture? Can we look at green industries here? And unfortunately, we have a very poor vision of the future. And we're looking at for example, Suzlon actually approached the Goa government about 15 years ago to set up a windmill plant in Goa because they found that having it on, say, the riverbank, they could be able to make the large blades, not transported by road. They could actually take it, by sea, by rivers to the locations where it's needed, therefore cut down costs. But there was no incentive given for them to come in. So how can we encourage the industry to actually move into the place? One of the things that we realized in preparing the regional plan really was that Goa's percentage of 400 odd villages. And if we can actually use the village as an economic development cell. In the old days, villages were completely independent. They grew all the food they needed, all the energy that was needed really was locally produced as well. And everyone is employed mostly in the village itself. So can that cell of development be recreated? And that's the model of actually decentralization as well. So can we decentralize and actually put control back and power back into these villages so that they can be independent and not depend on. And each village is unique. Moira is known for bananas, Para is known for watermelons. So there can be trade in between them. But it doesn't have to be agriculture as well. So what are the other industries that are coming into support? And India is a nation of entrepreneurs. So everywhere you see somebody open up a corner shop somewhere. And so it's great. It's very few nations are in that same spirit that India has. So can we encourage communities to actually be independent and create livelihoods there? Employment is a major issue in Goa. And I think we need to look at employment issues if we are to address it. And really tap understand what people need here. A few of us have got together and we started this NGO which is called Act for Goa, which is basically an app-based NGO, where we actually align people to put their aspirations, put their issues on an app and get that map. The government has a copy of it, we have a copy of it, and you can say that these are the real issues that people need. And once you have that collated together, you can see trends in it. So you may have a random thing which is, whether it's a garbage issue, whether it's transport issue, whether it's other issues of governance or healthcare, all these are mapped so people understand it, and even the political force can actually respond to it. Because right now the political force are only built, looking at things which are impressive people, building fancy bridges, dream circles, whatever else. They're not really addressing core issues of the population. That needs to be addressed in some way. And I think, as somebody who's been involved in planning, we really need to control our planning. We've recently seen, the regional plan being abused by way of ODPs, so parcels of land which are forested in fields and close to water bodies, all that are converted. And the value of land goes up 20 times to just one click of the pen. And so that's not planning at all, that's not balance at all. It's just pure plain corruption. So I think we need to address that extremely seriously and look at it.
But have there been any successes in your work with the government? Is a great mentor.
The tourism model, for example, just controls tourism from an overall perspective. It sets the standards. It does not get involved in tourism itself directly. And there are no big hotels, very few big hotels itself. So they encourage actually small entrepreneurs. So it's family business that runs, say, adventure tourism, going into the cloud forest, whatever. So, and the government just coordinates that. The one ticket you can actually get picked up in the airport, go to your hotel, from the hotel, then adventure person will come to here. And we've also eco tripping, which is basically a tourism that's based on experiencing the agriculture, the food, the lifestyles of people over there. We don't have it here. In fact, it's all abused over here. We only see a beach tourism, we see this party and casino type of tourism.
So, I mean, and you touched upon this because as COVID first hit, the first lockdown, the first experience of all of us in Goa was that we didn't have any vegetables and fruits.
Yeah.
Because we all suddenly woke up with this very crude realization that we don't grow any vegetables and fruits. And nothing was coming from Karnataka, and the grain comes from Kolhapur, so we actually had nothing. And it's a really missed opportunity for the government because they've had now 1.5 years to really work on it. They've done nothing. I mean, really, it's really sort of I mean,
yeah, another potentially, I mean, when we looked at the regional plan, we'd actually map, say, human resources. We looked at the doctor population ratio is great over here, the teacher population ratio. So can Goa become a medical hub? Can it become an educational hub over here? And we look at Manipal, this little hilltop, close to Bangalore, and what it's done. I mean, it's become a real, buzzing place in terms of education, in terms of medical care. And Goa needs to do that because we have the human resource over there, we have the history of it. Asia's oldest hospital, college hospital over here. And so we can easily, tap those resources as well, but unfortunately we don't really think that way. So
is it so? The thing. So we have a sense that there's not just misgovernance. There's a disconnect. There's a disconnect, and whatever the government is sort of planning or thinking is really disconnected with people that really want and really work. And I want to sort of come to Caroline a little bit now because I think I was just reading the recent report where in the last 5 years, the National Crime Records Bureau has consistently in its annual report said that Goa has history of crime, any domestic violence crime, for example, and really sort of underreported crimes against women in Goa. And all of you have led sort of a huge kind of campaign against that. And that is a signal of a lot of the way things are happening here, right? So you deny the sort of the hard truths. It is a sort of a public denial of it. It doesn't happen here. And that's why maybe you can sort of tell us a little more about that. And also, you're directly involved with a sort of pretty heart-wrenching case of Riddhi Naik that happened recently. And sort of touching upon how the sort of law and order situation, which is so critical to Goa's sort of brand of being a safe tourist haven. How does that kind of play out in our relationship with law and order and human rights?
So basically, it's obvious that the government wants to deny, the statistics and the reality of gender-based violence, because of course, I like to say that Goa being a touristic state, everything is safe and everything is hunky-dory. But the reality is completely different. We have a huge increase of gender-based violence, whether you look at the cases of rape in Goa, domestic violence cases, not only in the court, but at the police stations, the records speak for themselves. We have got a lot of sex tourism, human trafficking, all kinds of violence. And of course, the government, again, as I said, platitudes. We've arrived way back in 1995, the Beijing Platform for Action. We are signatories to CEDAW, the Convention on Elimination of Discrimination Against Women. So these are touted that we are signatories to all these things, but the actual ground reality is that crimes against women and in Goa is like really increased in every sphere. When you look at, so another issue that would be linked or flagged along with this increased case of women is really the complete breakdown of all police mechanisms and the law and order situation. We have a police investigation that is so archaic. Basic things like fingerprinting, expertise is not available. It is only recently when the High Court actually monitored the setting up of the forensic laboratory in Verna, Pune, which in Verna, which was actually had all its equipment brought I think 5 years ago, but never set it up. Only because 15 days every fortnight the High Court monitored it, that they had to give undertaking to the High Court that this forensic laboratory is going to be set up on 31st of October, in fact is their deadline. They had to contempt proceedings against the director. So we have a situation like this of like police investigation being so very archaic. We don't have any kind of and therefore it's very easy for police, like in the Siddhi Naik's case, easily throw it out and say that it was suicide, that it was, there's nothing that is case. Then it goes into investigation. And then ultimately, if the police say that it's a, throw out the case saying you cannot, not enough evidence to file a charge sheet, it really throws a lot of the woman's activities and that we have done for the particular case. So many years back, actually. So the strengthening of the police investigation and law and order is really a priority which the government should look at. Simple things like, even for example, the recent Supreme Court directive to set up, for example, as you said, all these politicians have come into Goa. All the police are deployed for basically a trial court advocate. All the cases where held back or not didn't take place in this entire 10 days, and very easily the police sent a note to the court for law and order duty. So investigation of very serious crimes will always take a backseat if the same police or the regular transfers so that police investigation is strengthened. All of these are just established. So these are issues that, I mean, case after case will happen. Siddhi Naik happened, everybody, including I know TMC, everybody went to her house. But there is one case, there are so many others. And there's so much of breakdown of all the systems. Like for example, you look at the Plain Domestic Violence Act, a beautiful act, 2005. In fact, all women activists went all the way to Delhi to celebrate of the act, saying that it's a very in an act which has literally, you can get so many reliefs in one law. But if in case an act can remain just that act on paper, if it's not given government backing, so this act would have been totally functional, and the main people who make this act work are something called protection officers. Now, in every other state, you have full-time protection officers, because the entire functioning of the law of this domestic violence is dependent on how well these POs work. Now, in Goa, the only state which didn't bother to appoint NPOs, gave the videos or the blog